So in the previous lecture, we have seen how to use LLM MathChain, right? Now let's see one other application by using this MathChain. So let's go to VS Code and see one other application. So this is our chains demo. Inside that, we are trying to create a new Python file, and let me try to save this as MathChain demo 2, right? And you already know, first thing is we have to install all the required packages. Here we are using LangChain OpenAI and this one too. Now let me try to load all the required modules. So we are using OpenAI LLM. So we are trying to import chat OpenAI from LangChain OpenAI, and then chat prompt template from LangChain prompts, and LLM MathChain from LangChain chains, and load.env from .env and OS module, right? We have already seen this numerous times. The first thing is we have to load our environment variables from the environment file by using load_.env function, and then we are trying to get the API key by using os.getEnv function, and then we are trying to store that inside OpenAI API key. Okay, now the next thing is let's try to initialize this OpenAI by using chat OpenAI and assign it to a variable called LLM. That is how we initialized our LLM. Now by using this chat prompt template, let's try to create a custom prompt template for the MathChain, right? So what is our math prompt? Here we are trying to define our math prompt, right? So we are using chat prompt template, which is inside LangChain prompts, and we know inside that we have a method called from messages, and here we are trying to pass the prompt. So our prompt is system, you are a mathematical assistant that helps solve math problems. Given a math problem, respond only a Python expression that can be evaluated to solve it. You must start your response with answer followed by the expression. Do not include any other text or explanations, right? And here we are trying to provide the examples. For example, question, what is 2 plus 2? You provide the answer as 2 plus 2. And if the user asks, if I have 3 apples and multiply them by 4, how many do I have? And you want the LLM to respond as 3 times 4 as an expression. And then if user asks what is 25 times 4, you want the LLM to respond as 25 times 4 as an expression, right? So this is the prompt that we defined, right? So if you notice here, we are guiding the LLM with few examples, right? This prompt is nothing but few shot, which we have seen already. If you go to prompt engineering demo and go to few shot, so here you can see we are guiding the LLM in this way. So if the customer says this, you want the LLM to respond this way. If the customer says this, you want the LLM to respond this way. So we are guiding the LLM by providing some examples, and we are trying to provide the context so it can respond accordingly, right? Which is nothing but few shot. So here we used few shot prompt engineering technique, and then we created a math prompt, right? So this is always better to give some examples when we are trying to solve math based questions, right? So we are trying to provide the LLM more context by guiding it with some examples. Now let's try to create a math chain by using this LLM MathChain, right? So we are using LLM MathChain. Inside that we have from LLM, and for LLM attribute we are passing our LLM which we initialized before, and then for prompt attribute we are passing our math prompt which we just defined, right? So we try to bind the LLM with the prompt by using this LLM MathChain. So we got the MathChain ready. Now we know inside MathChain we have a function called invoke, right? So now let's try to ask a question. What is the question? What is 25 times 4, right? And let's try to see if the LLM is responding, right? Math result is equal to, inside the LLM chain we have a function called invoke, and then for question we are passing this question, right? Now let's try to print both the question and also the answer, right? So let me try to save this code and run the code. So you can see what we asked, what is 25 times 4? and the answer is 25 times 4. So you want the LLM to respond this way, right? Now let's change this to 100 and see if the LLM is responding correctly. So now you can see the answer is you want the LLM to respond in this way. Answer colon 100 times 4, right? So here we are using only simple math question, but you can also replace this question with some complex math questions, right? With the complex math questions, the LLM may not be able to answer without this math chain, right? So this LLM math chain is more beneficial when you are trying to solve more complex math problems, right? With simple questions, you may not be able to see the difference with or without math chain, but you will see the difference when you are trying to solve some complex math questions, right? So that is the benefit of using this LLM math chain, right? Because what we are telling, the objective of this prompt is to respond only in this way, right? If this is the question, you respond this way. If this is the question, you respond this way. If the user asks in this way, then you respond this way, right? But if you want the answer in a different format, then you can change the prompt here, right? So the LLM will answer based on how we provided our prompt, right? So let's quickly review. We tried to install all the required packages and we loaded all the required modules, and then we tried to load the environment variables from this environment file, and we read the key we stored inside OpenAI API key. And then next thing is we initialized our LLM, and then here we created a prompt. This is nothing but few short because we are giving the examples, right? So this is how we defined our prompt by using chat prompt template from messages. And we used LLM MathChain, and inside LLM MathChain we have a function called from LLM, and for LLM attribute we passed this LLM, and for prompt we passed the prompt that we created. And then this is the question we are trying to ask the LLM. What is 100 times 4? And inside the chain we have a function called invoke, and we are passing the question, and we are trying to print both question and answer, right? So this is how we are getting the answer, because here we give answer, so that is why this answer, and then the result is this one, answer in this format, answer colon whatever the expression, right? So depending on the prompt, the LLM will try to understand the context, and then it will try to solve the math question. Here we are using LLM MathChain. Instead of this simple math question, you can try to solve some complex math problems as well, right? So that is the objective of using LLM MathChain. All right, thank you.